We are in session today. The first case on the docket is Wilson versus Love. It's an allegation of a personal injury. Mr. Wilson, you're claiming damages against Mr. Love. And according to your pleading, you said it was because of the wild and zany antics of Mr. Love on the golf course.
Oh, that was his imagination.
So, now, can you tell me in your own words, like a little bit about how you know him?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I was in town recently on a business trip. I'm a FedEx driver, and it was a convention of drivers. And after a grueling morning session, we decided to blow the afternoon off and do a little golfing. So the hotel that we were staying at had a beautiful golf course, and so I decided to duck out and get 18 holes in. Since I was by myself.
Well, you didn't know Mr. Love at that time?
I did not. I just showed up at the golf course. They teamed me up with Mr. Love, who seemed at first glance to be a normal human being. I was later figured out that that might not be the case, but they teamed us up. We shook hands. He wanted to place a little wager on our round of golf. I never met the man, but he seemed pleasant enough. And so we decided to bet lunch on a round of golf. I played it with 2 handicaps, so I figured.
So does that mean that you're good, 2 handicaps?
I play, yes, I'm fairly good, and he assured me that as a weekend golfer, he was a bit of a player. So we decided to go out and enjoy a round of golf.
So I'm clear, though, you didn't know him. The golf pro just teamed you up because you two were alone.
That is correct, Your Honor. So we get in the car, and I let Mr. Love drive, since as a driver I'm doing it constantly, and I thought it would be a nice break from the routine. We go to the first hole. He has clubs and golf balls, and he seems like a golfer to me. We go out to the first hole, and I hit my drive right down the middle. He tops his for a few feet, but I thought, well, okay, he's just nervous, first tee, no problem there. We go on to we play the hole. I think he got a 10 or an 11, but I thought, okay, he's just having a bad start.
I think that you put in your notes there was an issue with a window on the first hole.
Well, that would be on the second hole. He then tees it up and happens to slice it badly to the right and through a window. He assures me that he never golfs this way, but meanwhile I noticed that he only has 1 golf spike on, and he has the glove on the wrong hand, and I'm beginning to think maybe there's a little bit of an issue with his golf game. But ever the good sport, we go on. On the third hole, he hit it into a tree, and it dropped down and hit a rock and then bounced backwards. He then drives over the ball washer on his way to get the ball. And I'm beginning to think more and more that perhaps Mr. Love isn't quite the weekend golfer that he says he is. By the time we get to the fourth hole, he dribbles one to the ladies' tee, which, considering that was his best drive of the day, I'm thinking, maybe he's starting to warm up a little bit.
Well, how did it come about, and then I want to hear from him, how did it come about that you're actually injured? Because I see that, is that injury or your arm is taped? Is that from
yes,
this
Your Honor.
golf game? Was it because of your swing, or?
Oh, no, it was because of a swing. It was his swing.
In what way?
We get to the 5th tee, and I thought by now I should maybe stand back a little bit, considering how he's been spraying the ball all over the place. And I'm 20, 30 feet back at least.
Oh, am I going to get a chance to say something?
Yes, you will. In one moment. In one moment.
I'm a good 20, 30 feet behind him, way out of the way.
And what happened?
Next thing I know, he takes this wild backswing, and the club comes winging at me, and all I could do is quickly put my arm up, and the club smacked into my arm, and I felt severe pain, and it turned out when I went to the hospital that it was broken.
And that's what you're claiming here, and I presume you did not finish the golf game.
Well, I did try to play one more hole.
With him? With him?
I did, and then as we drove into the pond at that hole, I decided that should probably be the end of our round.
Well, Mr. Love, you heard this.
Yes.
tell me a little bit about what happened that day as you saw it.
Well, he's talking about a different day, Your Honor. I have no idea what he's talking about. I have a totally
Do you
different
remember
version.
playing golf with him?
Vaguely, yes. Yes.
Vaguely?
Yes, I was matched up with him. You know, I'm really very nervous. Would you mind? Can I have a smoke? May I smoke while we're...
Absolutely not. All right.
All right.
We don't
all right.
smoke in court now.
Well, it really, the whole thing was his fault. I was in a good mood. I was relaxed. And then he started to get all mad at me, and he got me very nervous. I know I hit a couple of shots into the woods, and I had to go retrieve the ball. I know that took a long time, and he started to get really, really mad at me.
One of the things he said was that you drove the golf cart over a hill and almost turned you over. Is that why he was mad?
It could be. Maybe that happened. I took my eyes off the car path for a moment, and only because he was yelling at me, because now he was mad at me because I was hitting balls into the ponds, and I did put a couple into some of the ponds.
How many balls did you hit in the pond?
I'm not sure. Maybe about 23.
23?
Yeah, and then I ran out of golf balls.
Most people, I'm not surprised. Most
Yeah.
people don't use 23 golf balls in the summer.
Yeah, well,
all right.
it was only because he was getting me so nervous.
So you
And-
admit that you're not the best golfer.
I usually am a very good golfer, but it was because of the way he was treating me that day, and I started to get nervous, like I said, and then my hands started to sweat because I was getting all upset. I was using this club. This is my 6-iron, which I'm usually pretty good with.
Okay,
And-
that's the club that you used.
Bad memories, Your Honor.
So that club, do you remember if it went out of your hands? Now, let me ask you a question. You didn't purposely let a golf club go to hit him because he was yelling at you. Let's rule that right out, okay? Or is that possible?
What was that question again?
Did you purposely try to hit him with a golf club?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, you're shaking your head, yes.
Yeah, but no,
But you're saying
okay,
no.
No.
All right.
No. And
So, well, tell me some more. Tell me what your version is.
well,
Your hands were sweaty?
my hands were very sweaty because the most recent occurrence was that I hit this really nice drive, but it was very low. And wouldn't you know, it hit this rock, it bounced over my head, the ball, and I think it did hit Mr. Wilson because he was standing way too close to me as I was driving the ball. And
Well,
it may have,
was the rock, is this the one that went to the ladies' tee, which most people that play golf know it's not far from the men's tee?
yeah, the rock was actually before the ladies' tee. My drive didn't go very far.
Well, okay, so that happens.
Yes.
All right, I can understand that.
And then he started to yell at me again, and I'm saying, I'm just here trying to relax this afternoon. And that's when maybe my next swing, because of my nervousness and my sweaty hands, maybe I did lose the grip on
Well, how
the
did it
club.
happen without letting that go? You went in the back?
Yeah, I did my backswing, and as I came up, the club went right straight up in the air.
And then it came back and hit Mr. Wilson.
I'm not sure because I think I blacked out at that point.
You blacked out.
Yeah, I may have. Because I don't
but
remember.
you said you played another hole. Did he play another hole?
It might have been his best hole, Your Honor,
The next hole?
as he blacked out.
Oh, all right. Well, so you admit that the club hit him.
Maybe.
Okay,
I
you
didn't
don't
see it
know.
hit him. I heard a clunk behind me, but I didn't actually see it hit him. It could have hit the ground for all I know.
Your Honor,
all I know
I
is
was that clunk.
he was yelling after I heard the clunk.
I'm just curious in this court proceeding, I believe you changed your hat.
Did I? I don't remember doing that.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say this is just more evidence of the behavior that I witnessed on the golf course that day. The changing of the hats, the swinging the golf club, trying to hit it with the handle.
But before you got to that point, you had, according to the notes here, you had a wild ride with him. He broke a window. He hit 29 golf balls in a pond, or lost 29 golf balls.
Excuse me, Your Honor. 23. 23.
And you still stayed in the car.
I'm
with
very
him.
patient, Your Honor.
Well, you know, I was driving the golf cart and we were going downhill, and I didn't know, doesn't the guy have legs or whatever? I know we hit a couple of bumps, and he almost went right out the front of the golf cart. And I'm saying to myself, aren't you like holding yourself, making yourself, you know, stable inside the golf cart? I don't know why he was complaining so much. I know it was a little bit of a bounce when we hit that speed bump, and we were going kind of fast.
All right, I believe that I have enough information. What I'm going to do is I'm going to consider the notes and the law, and I will come back with a decision. So at this point, we are in recess.
Can I smoke now?
All right, we're back in session, and again, this is the case of Wilson versus Love, where there was an injury from a golf club that was swung by Mr. Love and let go. And the legal question now is, should Mr. Love have to pay Mr. Wilson any money damages? And I've reviewed the law, and under the assumption of risk doctrine, when you engage in a sport, you engage in the normal risks of that sport. So you could be hit with a golf ball, you could have a ball hit a tree and come back and hit you. However, a golf swing, letting go of the club after the behavior that was described here, is not a normal risk of a golfer. And in this case, I find in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $200.
$200? Are you kidding me?
Court is back in session. In this case, it's the case of Mr. Kevin versus Rebecca D. Mornay. Mr. Kevin, according to your notes, you are traveling, you're in town, and then an event happened that caused you to miss a big sale. I believe you're going to tell me in your own words. And you're blaming Rebecca D. Mornay.
That's right.
All right, and you've sued her for money damages.
That's right, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Kevin, tell me a little bit about yourself, why we're here today.
Well, I travel for business. I sell machines, printers to big businesses, printers, copiers, all the machines they need to run their businesses in an excellent way. And that's the way I approach it. I'm very punctual, and I'm very exact in what I do and in the work I do. So I'm landing and I have a connecting flight. So there was plenty of time, and I had a hankering for Mexican food. So I'm going through town and I see a clock shop, big, huge clock on the outside of it. And I go in and I start talking to the owner of the shop and said, you know, I'm looking for something Mexican.
The owner of the shop, is that Rebecca D. Mornay, who's here in court?
That's right, that's
Okay.
Rebecca.
All right.
Okay, so she said, oh yeah, there's a great Mexican place right over there. And I can see it from here. So I said, that's fantastic. So I go over, I get myself a nice big burrito and a margarita, and I start having a nice lunch there. And I knew that I had to be back at the airport at a certain time. I had it all planned out. And from where I was sitting in the Mexican restaurant, I could see her clock shop. She takes pride, she says, in her clock shop.
Well,
so there was a big clock
Okay.
right in the front of the shop. I could see it perfectly.
And did it say something on top? You said it said something, a time you can count on?
Time you can count on. So that's what I did. I counted on the time she had.
And what
Now,
happened?
Well, here's the problem. My problem is my watch I normally have, I left on the plane. My
Very
cell
organized.
phone, the battery had died.
He's
so
not
I
too
was with
organized,
nothing.
Honor. He's not organized.
Okay, well, I'm telling my story. You'll have your chance.
You're right, it's a story.
So I was looking, I was having my dinner, and then when I was finished with it, I said, oh, this is great. I have lots of time. And I took my time, got to the airport. Here I get to the airport, and they already boarded. The plane is taxiing down. I missed my flight. I missed a huge sale. So not only
Did,
did I
the
lose...
plane leave early, or why are you
No,
blaming Ms.
because
DeMornay?
this is what I found out later. It was daylight saving time, and this one never changed the clock on the outside. So I was an hour late when I thought I was on time for my flight.
And so you're blaming her, and you're suing her. What did you miss?
I missed a great big sale at my next stop, from the airport. And not only did I lose a lot of money, because this was a big sale, what I lost more importantly was my reputation. Because I pride myself on the work that I do and the punctuality and the business deals that I have.
That
All
you
right,
rely
let-
on others for.
Let me
Punctuality.
hear from Ms.
Well, we've heard
DeMornay.
from her. Let's hear from her now when it's her turn.
Well, this won't be a story. This is actually what happened. I run a clock shop. I love timepieces. I love all antique clocks. Everybody wants to get lost in time. I'm lucky. I get to do that every day. I hired somebody, a local person, to help me. I am still in charge of everything. I keep myself and my clients very important. I keep them close to me. I know where my clients, what times we're supposed to be. I don't leave it up to other people. Do you look at a magazine ad and see the
please
watches?
talk to me, not
I just
to
wonder
him.
if he looks at the magazine's ads and sees the watches and thinks it's 10 after 10 every time he sees it. I can't help it. He's not punctual. He's not organized. A businessman whose next client is so important, and he leaves his watch at the plane. He had the time to go and have a margarita before his big meeting. That's pretty amazing. Anyway, my client, my personal helper, she didn't set the clock time at the exact right time. It is my fault in that respect.
your fault.
I
Nice
left
that
her.
you said
Not
it.
that you being late is my fault. That the clock was not set right is my fault. I can't help your punctuality at the bars. Anyway, she set the clock at the wrong time. It was brought up to my attention probably by the end of the day, and I went out and I corrected the situation. Meanwhile, this man now is accusing me that he's late for his businesses, and it's somehow my fault. I never received a paycheck from the man to say I'm his personal assistant.
Well, you did have on the clock a time you can
Didn't
count
necessarily
on.
mean it was that clock that you can count on. There's other clocks in there you could count on. There's this thing, you have one on your arm right there. It's called a watch. You can use that as well. Or you can use these things they call cell phones. They have organizers in there too. It could beep and tell you
Well,
when your next one
But
is.
we can't count on you, so we know that.
Hold on a minute. The fact is, it doesn't matter what he could have used. He's saying he relied on your clock, which was set wrong. So tell me a little bit about this shop. Do you have lots of clocks?
I have lots of clocks, Your Honor. I have antique clocks. I have clocks that are set on different times around the world. I am not selling time. I'm selling the timepiece. He comes into my shop, very nice man in the beginning, before he started, a little this at the bar. He was nice. He inquired about some pieces, something he wanted to get for another woman. He was looking at clocks. I helped him. He left. He asked me where to go. I told him where a local favorite is. He left. He never asked me, is this the right time? Because I have an important meeting I have to go to. Had he said that, I probably would have sold him a watch, because they are portable and you could put them on your hands now and your wrist, and he would have known what time it was. Or if he was in this bar, I've been to that bar, I frequent that bar, there's a clock in that bar as well. It's amazing he's staring out the window at my clock.
Well, did you see any other clocks? You only saw one clock?
I only saw the one clock. I only saw the one. It was so big, and it had that brand on it that we could count on. It's obviously we can't count on her, but she put that up there that we could count on her. So I figured it was big enough, as big as the wall. Why not count on that? And that's what I went on. And of course, that was my mistake.
Now, you're sure, though, that the plane didn't leave early on its own because of a problem with the airline?
No, it didn't. Plane was on time. I was late because of counting on somebody else.
So what you're saying to me is that had the clock been set right, you would have gotten to the airport on time and made your flight?
And made my sale.
Well, how do you know you would have
My
made the
business would have
sale?
been intact. Oh, because if I had gone in there and I'd met with them and I'd explained everything that we had, I had made the last 5 sales in a row. So it was pretty certain. The one I even looked at, I looked into what they ended up buying after, and they didn't get as good a deal as I would have given them.
Of course not.
Well, what happened at the airport, so I'm clear?
So I went into the airport, the boarding was already finished, and the airplane was taxiing. And I said, this was the time I explained everything to them, and they said, once we're at this point, there's nothing we can do. You have to wait for the next flight, which is the next morning.
When you walk into an airport, Your Honor, I walk into airports and there's clocks all over, just as well as in my shop. And there's times on those little, it says delayed boarding. He should have known then. It is not my fault. He's never paid
no,
me to
I
be his
think he's
personal
saying-
assistant.
Once I got there,
When he got to the airport, it didn't matter what the clock said because it was too late.
He never told me he was relying on me to get him to the airport. I am not his personal assistant. I sell clocks. My personal helper.
but your motto was you could count on.
You're
but
selling,
I guess that's
You're
wrong.
selling technology and you don't even have the access to it.
Please talk to me.
Your Honor, I feel bad for the man. Apparently he's this wonderful salesman. Can't have too great of a reputation if he couldn't schedule the reappointment. Sorry. He is not that wonderful. I don't know how it's my fault. I sell clocks. I don't sell his personal appearance. I don't sell what he needs to get to the next
his
point.
complaint is
Appointment, sorry.
that you were representing the time to be something and it was wrong.
Just because it says a time you can count on, that doesn't necessarily mean it's that clock. Inside, I have other timepieces that tell the time around the world.
So they're set for different times.
Yes, I have all
and
different
he was in
clocks.
there?
He was in there.
Didn't
he
you
walked
notice
around.
that?
No, because I was interested in having a conversation,
And a margarita.
looking for
And a
what I was
margarita.
hungry
wanted a
for.
margarita.
And,
Hold on.
And she was having a nice conversation, and then
Let
seemed
me
nice at the
clarify
time.
this first, though. Did you have the margarita before you went in there, or I thought she told you where the restaurant was? Then you had the
He asked for
margarita.
where he can go get a margarita.
I never asked about the margarita. I asked about Mexican food.
Well, regardless, had you had anything to drink when you went in there?
No, nothing at all.
One more question about the shop. You didn't notice all these clocks with
I
different
noticed
times.
clocks.
Well,
I
you
didn't look
know-
at the time. I wasn't interested. When I first got there, I had plenty of time. And so it wasn't until I was in the Mexican restaurant that I looked up to gauge my time to see how long I had before I had to leave and head back to the airport.
If it was that important to you, don't you think you should have asked somebody else what time it was?
Well, why not
If I was
trust
nervous-
what you said was something we
'Cause
could
you don't
rely
know
on?
me. You don't know me.
Well, I do now, and that's too bad.
All right, what I'm going to do, I have to review the law, and I'll come back and I'll make a decision. I think I have the facts. I thank you both for the facts. And I will come back and make a decision. We're in recess. Okay, we're back in session, and in this case, Mr. Kevin, I believe you're complaining that Rebecca De Mornay had a clock shop, and that she had a clock outside that says a time you can count on. You were in town, didn't know her, you relied on that timepiece, and it was set to the wrong time. You got to the airport wrong, you missed your flight, and then you lost some sales that you believe you would have had. So now I have to make a decision in this case, and I would say to you, Rebecca De Mornay, that you're holding that clock out there, and you're saying this is a time that you can count on. However, she has no legal duty to you. You relied on that based on your own decision, but legally, Rebecca De Mornay did not have a legal duty to you, and that it was really up to you to find out what the correct time was. So I find in favor of the defendant. In the first case involving Mike Love, the golfer, what happened was, normally you assume risks in a sport. If you go to a baseball game and you get hit with a foul ball, you can't really sue anybody for that because that's called the assumption of risk. You expect that you might get hit by a baseball in a baseball game. If you go to a baseball game and you're sitting in the stands and the stands were constructed negligently and they collapse, that's different. You did not assume that risk. The first case was very close because the golfers assumed the risk of the golfing, especially since there was erratic behavior on the part of Mr. Love. It was a very difficult case. I felt it was worthwhile to give the plaintiff something. He was still very unhappy with it, but to give him something. But I didn't feel that he was entitled to everything because he assumed some of the risks of golf. The second case was a little bit easier because the clock shop did not represent to the world that they were giving each person the time, because if Mr. Kevin had prevailed, anybody that was late for something could then come back and blame the clock shop. There was no legal duty of the clock shop owner to Mr. Kevin especially to give the exact time. And Mr. Kevin relied on it on his own risk. I hope that you enjoyed watching the Judge Stevens show. I thank Samsung Productions for their help with this show and their tremendous, tremendous community service. Thank you.